Hello everybody. I'm going to finish sanding this real quick. I'm going to show you just a little bit of what I did back there. I've already done that video. And we're going to go ahead and primer. I'm going to go ahead and primer this. And as you can see, it is ready to primer from the drip rail down on this side, besides the fender. I painted that quarter once before, so this ain't like it happened to magically survive and be a blue quarter. I painted it, and it served its purpose. The purpose of painting that quarter was a soak coat. And honestly, if I had plenty of time, I'd probably do the entire car that way, but I don't. So, that let me show the same amount of stuff that in reality primer and guide coat would have showed. A few people around here used to actually do that. Paint a car with some kind of cheap lacquer and go back over it before they painted it. There was some funky stuff going on there, and after that primer and paint and everything cured, and I figured this will happen again, but after that body filler and everything fully cured, if you got back and looked at this quarter, it was choppy. I mean, bad choppy. So, I mean, it looked like the waves of an ocean. So, I tried it first by just kind of hitting the lows with filler, and it just kept moving them around, and it kept moving them around because this quarter's so big, you can only block so much, so I floated. This is just real thin. I mean, in spots here it ain't, but you can see how thin that is. It's just barely on it, but from there to the tail light, that's how all that's ended up looking after I blocked it, and there were spots that needed it and stuff, needed more filler, needed more sanding. Those high spots that somebody might point out are going to be fine. That's where the sandpaper hit first, but it's level all the way around it. I had a spot on this door, so I filled that in, but I've got it to where it's smooth down here now, but it's still low through here, and there's a little bit of a wave that I want to do just a little bit more fill through here. There's not going to be any more bodywork videos on this car. The next bodywork-ish video will be me painting the car, because I am going to show you us painting the car. But as far as all this other stuff I've been doing, the sanding, the painting, the priming, like I said once before, it's repetitive, so there's really no reason to keep showing it. So the fender, door, and quarter is painted, and the A-pillar. I went ahead and did the corner of this, but that's going to be rough the best I can do. There's a lot of pitting and stuff in that, so it's really ever going to only be blocked on the corners. I mean, that's half-assing it, but anyway. It's really good. I mean, you can't tell, with primer, because primer creates shadows when there isn't any, but when it was wet, I was looking at that, and all that's in great shape. Alright, so I want to show you something else. It's stranger than most people would do, but then again, this entire project's been something nobody else would do. I need a clutch pressure plate, flywheel bolts, pressure plate bolts, bell housing, throwout bearing, clutch fork. I need everything for this car. And you know, there's not another 4-speed Chevelle sitting out here that I can just take all that stuff out of. But I do have that 76 GMC Bandura. I needed a clutch, pressure plate, flywheel, all the bolts, bell housing, throwout bearing. I needed all that stuff. And I had two options. I could either buy all that stuff new, or I could take it out of this van. Now this van is a 350 3 on the tree Bandura. It used to be a, lack of a better way of saying it, it was a service van for a vending machine company. Dad used to work at it back in the 80s and early 90s as a mechanic. He also used to work there driving these vans around, stocking the candy machines and the sandwich stuff and all kinds of stuff. So he bought this back in probably 87. Drove it for a few years until he got his collarbone broke in a go-kart wreck. You know, alcohol burning, dirt go-kart, race cart. And my uncle ended up with it, and he used it for storage for fertilizer and stuff like that for tobacco. And then the last year that Harvey grew tobacco, I helped him plow, helped him with disking, and even set some of it for him and all kinds of stuff. And we worked out a trade, and he gave me that van. It had a lot of rust and stuff in it then, because that van stayed on the road in North Carolina year round for years, and it wore it out. It got rust and everything. So that van has a 12-inch clutch. Good, and it was good as of 1991. It was good. I drove it, and I didn't notice anything with it. It didn't slip. It was smooth. What ended up happening to the van, and the reason I parked it, is I decided to help it and change the oil. And what that actually ended up doing, when I changed the oil, that was how I learned that they took the zinc out of the oil. Because it went from running fairly good to wiping out half the lobes on the cam. And the last time I drove it, I was coming home from my go-kart race on 6 cylinders with it smoking and dropping oil pressure fairly quick because the motor was full of metal because the cam wiped out. So it's got a Target Master 350, which is supposed to be a 4-bolt main. It's got the cast iron 3-speed Muncie heavy duty truck transmission. A good bell housing, all that clutch and all that stuff. So tomorrow, the next video is going to start taking that clutch and everything out of that van. And it's going to be basically that and a couple other small things. So that may not necessarily be the next video I end up releasing, but it'll be the next video I end up making. So I hope you've liked the video. I can't think really of any other way to show anything. I mean, that's the old design van, you know, unibody van, half-ton. Got the simple everything. So that should be fun, you know. 2 bolts, cross member goes down, 4 bolts holds the transmission in, sits on the bell housing, flywheel pressure plate. I fully expect the clutch to be rusted to the flywheel or the pressure plate. After I get that transmission out at a later date, I'm going to take the engine out, and that engine is going to be a subject of a low budget rebuild, probably even worse than the low budget big block rebuild. And I've got a truck to put that back in, so I imagine rings, a cam, and rings, a cam, set of lifters, gasket set, trip to a car wash, maybe some rod bearings. Ought to be a pretty good video. So I hope you guys like this video, and tell me what you think. And the entire purpose of getting that clutch and pressure plate and flywheel and stuff out of this van, yeah, you know, any time anybody could run out and buy one, but that ain't gonna cost me anything.